Okay, another Stat 432 video. In this video, we're going to talk about setting up both your R and your RStudio and kind of the interplay between them for use in Stat 432. Obviously, we're going to use R in this class, so it's pretty important that your R is working correctly. So I'm just going to sort of go through a few things real quickly that you should do yourself to make sure everything's working the way we want it to work. Okay, so step one. Here we have an RStudio window, with me covering up one of the panels. But in particular, I want to talk about this environment panel. So when you load up RStudio, this should be blank. You should not have anything in your environment. If you do, that could cause some problems. So I always forget what the default is with respect to this behavior, and I'm always hoping they change it if it's not the one I think it is, but I'm going to show you a particular set of preferences. So if you didn't know, RStudio has a ton of preferences that you can change. My personal opinion is that default is beautiful. My philosophy here is sort of we don't want to change too many levers because then if someone else tries to use it, or if you move to a different machine, you got to reset everything up and it sort of causes problems. But I want to draw your attention to these workspace settings right here. Yours should mirror mine. So very importantly, this restore.rdata into workspace at startup should not be selected. If it is, that's the thing that's putting your workspace back when you reopen R. I'm clipping a little bit. I need to turn myself down a little bit. Okay, that should be better. Sorry. So we want to stop that. I've encountered many a times when a student comes to me and shows me their RStudio and every single variable, function, data frame that they've ever loaded into R is sitting in their environment. That's a bad way to operate. So let's do that. And then the other thing you can do is set the save workspace to .r data on exit to never. By default, you always get asked about this, and you should be saying no. But if we just set it to never, you'll never get asked, and you'll never have this problem. While you have the screen open, you should maybe poke around a little bit. Again, I wouldn't change too much, but one that I know students like to do is maybe mess with the appearance a little bit. So let's see here. We could do, something like that, and it changes radically the look of your RStudio. That's a personal preference type thing. I'm going to sort of stick with the default for now. It should be this. Okay. But yeah, so please make sure that this setting is what you have. All right. The next thing you need to do is use the most recent version of R. Technically, you could be, a minor version behind, but you should just right now get into the habit of when there's a new version of R, you install that version of R. It'll save you a lot of headache later. So when you open up R, generally it tells you in the console here what version you're on, but I don't see that right now because I had already done some stuff in the console and then cleared it. So the way you get around that is, let's see if I can remember this. I think if you just type version, I can't spell. What is that word I just typed? Anyway, there we go. So this might be a little bit confusing, but it's good to look at this. There's something called a major and a minor. So we're on major version 4 and then minor version 0.2. So taken together, it's 4.0.2. So at the time of recording, that's the version that we're using. If you're not on that, you should go to the R website, download the most recent version, install that. And that'll automatically get used inside of RStudio. A fun little factoid, each minor version has a name. If you're familiar with Peanuts, the cartoon that contains the characters Charlie Brown and Snoopy, that's where these names all derive from. So if you ever wondered what this funny phrase is, well, it's from an old comic strip. Okay, so again, if you're not on 4.0 0.2 or something newer, you should go ahead and go do that. I think we could also say git r version. That would also get you just that particular number. Okay, next up, check the R. I typed it wrong here too. I can't type version. Okay, so the reason we're so hung up on using the most recent version of R, beyond it's just the right thing to do and a good habit, is that inside of PrairieLearn, we're going to be sort of controlling randomization. And long story short, a few versions back, someone discovered that the way random number generation was working was not correct, and they changed it. So there was kind of this rift where after a certain version, I think it was 3.6 something, you'd get different random numbers before and after that version. So since we're going to be randomly generating data for you and then you operating on it inside of PrairieLearn, if you don't have the same version of us, you won't get the same answer that we expect. So this is super important. So what I want you to do is to run this command, which is rng kind, and you should see exactly this output after you run that command. If you don't, you're not currently on the right random number generator, even if you are on the correct version of R. There's some weird edge cases that come up where even if you update your R, you still maintain the old RNG version. I've seen this happen a bunch. It's not your fault. It's something weird in how things are being installed. But the solution then, if you don't get exactly this output, is to run this function with this argument, I think is what it is. Let me check something really quick. So all the things I'm talking about right now are inside of this. No, this would be the command. So if we run this, that'll get you set up with the right thing. So if you don't see this, run this, and then go back and run this again, and it should be correct. Everything I'm saying right now is inside the computing chapter of the book. For more detail and reference, you can check that out. Okay. The next thing you should do is update all of your packages. This shouldn't be too big of an issue in this course, but it's one less thing we have to check if something goes wrong. And again, it's a good habit to get into. So I need to move myself. Oh, there we go. And so the easiest way to do this, in my opinion, is to go to this Packages tab here. We see the numerous packages I have installed. Click the Update button. Oh, there's a few to update. The fact that mass is getting updated makes me really nervous because we use some data from there. Fingers crossed. Although if I update it on PrairieLearn, it's not a problem then. Okay, so select all, install updates. There it goes. Okay, so if you see this message, in general, just type no, and then things should work. Except I need to move my cursor to the right spot. No. There we go. We have new packages now. If I click update again, these are the ones that I would have to install from source. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. This will take a little bit longer because it has to download the source and then actually build it up from source. The problem is that sometimes that trips errors, so I kind of like to do those separately. So now if I go to update, still another one? Let's see. It's funny, I had just updated my packages like a day before I made this video. Okay, update. Okay, I'm on this one, I'm on this one. So the difference here is a pretty minor one. Inside your package had non-zero exit status. What was the issue here? So, and this is kind of common. I'm trying to install something from source. It doesn't work. So we're still on a very recent version of this package, which shouldn't be an issue. So what I have installed probably is a binary version instead of a source version. And if we just wait, eventually the binary will come out for this update, so I won't do that. Another thing you might run into when trying to update your packages is RStudio will say, hey, do you want to restart RStudio? Or sorry, restart R before you do these packages because you have packages loaded. So it's often best to start a new session before you go about updating any packages or restarting your R ahead of time. Or if you're prompted to restart, do the restart. Sometimes that can get into a bit of a loop where like it asks you to restart, it starts to install again, asks you to restart again. Just hit no the second time and it should work. But packages is something that's probably where we'll run into our biggest tech problems. If you have issues, let us know on Piazza office hours. We can generally solve them. I also have some notes in that computing reading about solving common installation issues and update issues with packages. Have a look there. Yeah. Otherwise, just in summary, do these 4 things. And then you'll be ready to go for the rest of class, and you will experience far fewer issues than if you hadn't done these things. As always, if you made it to the end of the video, good job, and I'll see you in the next one.